Better at Home, a project of the Atlanta Scholars Kollel.
I want to welcome you to the beginning of our program, Better at Home. The idea behind this is that we have a concept in Judaism where a Jew is expected to, throughout their life, grow as a person. You know, we're familiar with Judaism and all sorts of things like kosher and Shabbat now. Those are not unimportant. But there's an underlying concept that a Jew is expected throughout their life, in addition to all the important rituals and practices of Judaism, to transform themselves into a better person. And you might think, well, where's that in the Torah? The truth is, it's in a lot of places in the Torah. But you know, there's one interesting place where in the Ten Commandments, at the end of the Ten Commandments, you have a commandment which is, don't covet. Let's translate that to modern English. Don't be jealous of things your neighbor has. Now, what's weird about that commandment is that every other commandment is a thing not to do. But this is a thing not to feel. That's odd. Like, feelings are feelings. People feel what they feel. You know, God, I understand you tell me, don't grab something, take something away. I shouldn't feel something. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. And Judaism says, so don't feel that way. You say, well, don't feel that way. It's in my head. I have emotions. Clearly, Judaism says, so grow as a person and stop feeling that way. Well, how do I do that? Well, obviously, Judaism says, study Torah, learn how to be a better Jew, and then you won't feel that way. And then you can fulfill that commandment. There's essentially a commandment about being a better person. We have a commandment, Kedoshim to you, be holy, which the commentators say, well, what's being holy? How do you be holy? Carry around the halo, right? Well, the answer simply is that you have to grow as a person and have self-control and not indulge in things that make you a low-life type person. Jealousy is only one type of character. Jealousy is just one thing, but there's all sorts of traits that a person can have. Patience, giving, self-control, humility, anger. There's all sorts of ways. And the truth is, I think that we have this attitude in our society of, you know, we can't teach an old dog new tricks. First of all, you're not such an old dog. Take it from me. I'm getting there. Right? But the fact is, human beings can change. And I think this is an idea I've shared a lot of times. And it's critical to understand. We, as humans, have gotten used to the idea that change takes no effort. You say, well, where did we get that idea? I don't have that idea. And I say, I'll tell you where you got that idea. Because when you were a kid and you were 5, you had certain interests and things that would bug you and things that wouldn't. And then you grew out of it, right? You grew out of it. You're not a 5-year-old anymore. There's a few people left around. If you look, you know, there's always some people still acting like 5-year-olds. But, you know, you grew out of that. And then you became a 10-year-old. And, you know, grandma came and bought you a little Mutant Ninja Turtle thing. You thought, I'm not 5 anymore. I want a skateboard, right? And then you get older and you're a teenager and you're a completely different person. You couldn't hang out with that 10-year-old you with their silly beliefs and ideas and things they care about. And then you became a 20-year-old and like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed of my teenage self. I got to hide those pictures off of Facebook. And for most of your youth, growth didn't take any effort. A lot of people, most people mature, but it's not because they sat down and worked on it. It's just your brain grew, right? You ate enough food and your brain grew and expanded and the frontal lobes expanded and you developed some executive function and you became a more mature person. But then you hit that age when you got stuck. We all hit that age. You get stuck. That's me. That's who I am. You know what kind of person I am? I could never do that because that would be not me. It would be not you. Well, you hit an age. You're about, you know, maybe somewhere in your 20s. And growth doesn't happen automatically. I mean, sure, people go through traumas and things, it changes them, but fundamentally, unless something specific happens, that's it. You can go a decade or two and think, gee, I'm so used to changing, and here I am 20 years later, and not much has happened. I'm in my 40s and I'm still the same person. And we use this excuse that that's not me, that's who I am. Well, the reality is, if we're honest with ourselves, we can look at ourselves and say, there are times when I'm kind of embarrassed about how I overreacted, or didn't have self-control in a situation, or, I don't tell anybody, but when I'm sitting down thinking about it, I'm a little embarrassed about how much I took at that buffet, or how I lost my temper over something so minor at the checkout counter. But a lot of times we say, well, that's who I am. No. Judaism asks you to not be that way, to recognize that you can change. You can do something about it and be a better person in all sorts of ways. And so the concept of Musar is the concept of Jewish practical character change and growth, where if you met someone 20 years after they're starting the practice of Musar, you kind of wouldn't recognize them. They're calmer, they're happier, they're more mature. It's sort of, how'd you get there? And the answer is with intended practical work. And you say, oh, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. That doesn't sound like fun. But the truth is, it makes you a better person, makes you a happier person. If you have more patience, it makes life easier. We're sitting here in the middle of COVID, and just this past weekend, I decided, my daughter probably should go get a test because she got exposed to someone who tested positive. So I look online to find a place, and there's a place that has a map of their locations and how long the waiting time is. So I see one place right near my home. It's got a 9-minute waiting time. Ooh, sounds pretty good. It's Friday, Friday afternoon. Shabbat is coming. So I head on over. My daughter goes in and she signs up to wait. And I told my daughter, I'm going to run out to the pharmacy next door, get some snacks while we wait. Come back, sit in the car. Half hour goes by. I go in there. I'm like, hey, curious about how long this is going to take. We don't give wait times. So you have something on your website. So that's always wrong. An hour goes by. I see people go in ahead of me and come out ahead of me. And I will tell you, it was very unpleasant to sit in that car and feel like I'd been lied to, and people are getting taken ahead of me, and Shabbat is coming, and I know that I need to work on patience. Guess I got to get around to that. But I know that if it wouldn't bother me, if I'd be the kind of person who's always calm, and I've met people like that, they're just kind of chilled. They're just, it'll be what it'll be. And you say, oh, that's not me. Well, I'd like it to be me. Makes for a better life, right? And I remember there's a story I share about a friend of mine that always stuck with me, that really brought this home. When I was a young fella, I was driving to morning services with a friend of mine, my buddy Adam. And because of the traffic patterns, getting to the synagogue was a little bit of a roundabout path. And I figured, I knew a shortcut, because this is my hometown. I knew that if I go through the parking lot of a local day school and drive to the far end of the parking lot of the local day school, then I'm kind of right there by the synagogue. I don't even have to go to the synagogue parking lot. I could just park in the day school parking lot. So I pull into the day school parking lot. It's a Sunday, and the school is closed. There is nobody there. Now, this is before there are gates and latches. There's no security, And so I pull in, and I drive across the parking lot. Now, on this parking lot, there's an island, a traffic island, whose intent is to direct you, during carpool, with arrows going this way and arrows going that way. And I just drove straight across and against the arrows because there's literally nobody here. The building is closed, there's nobody here. And that was the shortest way across the parking lot. Anyway, I parked my car, I'm chatting with my buddy Adam, and he gets out of the side of the car, and I get out of the side of the car, and off to the side, about 100 yards away, there's a guy coming out of the synagogue who just sees us. And he says, I saw that! You drove against the arrows. I'm calling the police. And I was just ready to rip into him. Like, what's wrong with you? Schools is closed. There's nobody here. What's your problem? And I hear out of the corner of my ear Adam, who I was just talking to, is standing next to me, and he giggles. And he says, what a clown. And I realized, in my head, I'm ready to explode, I'm ready to jump, I'm angry, and Adam is, yeah, whatever. Who cares about that weirdo? And I also realized he was right. It stuck with me so much. Why can't I be like that? And I just decided I have to be like that. It's such a happier life, a calmer life, a more pleasant life. But I can't just wake up and be that. I've got to figure out how to do it. And Musar is like that. Musar is the way we change actively. You hear stories about the great sages and Musar masters of Jewish history and things that they've done. That doesn't mean we have to be them yet. But we can get there. We can be that person who's giving and caring and kind and patient and happy. All it takes is an intended, directed practice. And not necessarily a hard one. We could do this in increments, right? And the last thing I want to share with you here is that what we're going to start with this program is really a taste of this work, a taste of it, just to know how it's done. How it's done. Because the truth is, if you want to change one of your character traits, you say, well, I know that this program, Better at Home, is a 6-week program, so by the end of this program, it's going to be amazing. I'll be transformed. I have some bad news. That's not how it works. Really, this is just a sort of a practice run. A chance to get a taste of how this all operates. Because the truth is, if there's a character that you really want to transform, how long is it going to take? Minimum a year? Maybe a decade, 2 decades? To get it fully under control? Like, really? But that's all right. That's why you're here on planet Earth. I remember when I was turning 13, I went to my dad and I said, let me get something straight here. I turned 13, I'm a full adult, and I've got to get everything right starting tomorrow. Well, buddy, I'm a 13-year-old. And my dad said, I had the same question when I was your age, and what someone told me was, 13 is when you start. The rest of your life is the journey, right? The reason you're still here on the planet is to give you time to accomplish these things. It's okay if you don't do it overnight. But even during that journey, even if it takes a decade or 2, you're going to see the fruits and benefits of those changes. You're going to feel it. But let's understand the method. The method is identify the character trait you want to change, and then take upon yourself specific actions that challenge you in that area. Right? Things that make you think. So an example that we're going to talk about soon is the idea of self-control. That's a very broad, wide-ranging character, self-control. So let's say you want to work on self-control. You say, well, where do I see that in my daily life? It just springs on me. I can't plan for it. Okay, all right. But you can plan for it. You can come up with situations and create a situation where you have to challenge your self-control, right? Let's say, for example, let's say you're working on eating as an issue. So one way to work on that is you make a plan that at dinner you're going to set up your plate, put all your food on it, sit at the table while everyone's eating, and not eat for 5 minutes. The food's right in front of you. It's getting cold, and what you got to do is listen to the voices in your head and the arguments they're making, why you need to do that now. And you need to think, are those arguments valid? Are they rational? You need to challenge your own thinking. You need to be conscious and aware, sort of like an observer of your own cognitive processes. You have to put yourself in a place where, you're thinking about, why am I doing that? Let's say anger. Let's say you raise your voice. Let's say in your home there's a situation that always makes you, okay, here's the plan. Wait for it to happen. And this time, instead of reacting, plan to be an external observer to your thoughts, right? I can't stand when he squeezes the toothpaste tube like that. It drives me crazy. Now, is that just a financial thing? Because it's probably over the course of a lifetime $11.32 worth of wasted toothpaste. I mean, relationships are worth more than $11.32. What is it? So listen to your voices. Listen to your head. I can't stand it because... Why? Yeah, why? It's all right. What do you mean I can't? Of course I can stand it. I can stand the toothpaste tube looking funny. Or can I? Just think about it. And then think about, well, here's how I'm going to react, right? Let's see, there's something you react to with anger, right? Is that going to be a practical, better way for it to get worked out? Maybe not. So really what you need to do is think about the processes in your head and debate them. You don't have to talk to yourself. You can do it, in your conscience. But debate it, think about it, analyze it. Why do I do that? What is it about that? Is it possible for me to do it differently? And practice doing it differently and resisting those feelings. And first time it isn't easy. Maybe the first week it isn't easy. But at least you have a sense and an idea of what's going on. And once that happens, you're on the path to change. So we're going to start with a week or two per character just to get a little taste of how this works. And we're going to do this together. And the truth is, one of the great things about this is that, a lot of things in Judaism require being in a certain place, services at a synagogue. This is Judaism that's done everywhere. In your car, in the supermarket, in your home, in your workplace. It's a way to grow yourself spiritually anywhere, anytime. So this is why we're calling it Better at Home. You could be locked down and stuck in the house and quarantined, and you can still be doing something really meaningful. And I'm glad to be along with you on this journey.